Hey everybody, back in your feed again today. We've got a lot to talk about with regard to the new rubric. This is a copy of the AP History Modified 5-document rubric. This is only for the 2020 test. Remember that your test is now no longer 3 hours, it is now 45 minutes long, and it consists of one question. No pressure. That one question is going to be a document-based question, and they've modified the rubric to try to fit this new 5-document format. And now, instead of being a 7-point document, it's now a 10-point rubric document rubric. If you watched one of my earlier videos, I think I only explained like 2/3 of this. You know that feeling you get when you just turn in a quiz and then you realize that like you were the first one done because everybody else was still working on the back and you didn't know there was a back? I totally did that. I didn't know there was a back. So let's talk about the whole rubric this time. We're also going to talk a little bit about your newest DBQ assignment, which is a 5-document DBQ, and we're going to do a quick outline. So got a lot doing in this video. So let's get down to it. First off, as far as the points are concerned, your first point and your second point are really just the same as they've always been. Your first point is going to be for that thesis or claim. You're going to get a question, you're going to need to respond to the prompt, the historically defensible thesis or claim. And what they want to see you do is pick a side. They're going to provide you documents that give or that answer the argument, that answer the question that they're going to give you, and they're going to want you to pick one side or the other and argue and prove that you are right. So just imagine that somebody's in the corner the whole time saying "nuh-uh," and you're like, "yeah, huh," and here's why. Second point is going to be for contextualization. This is where you use your sprite charts, right? Whatever the question is, use your sprite chart. Find the question. It will usually have a date within the question. Find that date within the sprite charts. They all have dates, and use that sprite chart to create that contextualization. Put the question and the prompt into a broader historical series of events, and just go broad and come right on down to your thesis statement. I'll show you that here in just a little bit. All right, third point. Actually, this isn't the third point. This is category C, which is worth up to, looks like, oh yeah, category C is bigger, which is worth up to 5 points. So the first point, really, the first 3 points are really similar to the previous rubric. First off, you get 1 point if you just use the content of 2 documents. Now, they don't want you to quote, they want you to paraphrase. You paraphrase 2 documents or you describe 2 documents and prove that you read it and you kind of, and you actually, you don't have to prove that you understand it. As long as you use 2 documents, you get 1 point. Or you could support an argument in the response using just 2 documents. Now, this is a new point. This idea that you can just use 2 of the documents to support, and we'll get into that in the outline. And then the third point there supports an argument in the response to the prompt using at least 4 documents. And again, you're going to get 5, so this is really similar to what we had before. So if you can support, if you can use 2, you get a point. You support with 2, you get 2 points. You support with 4, you get 3 points. Now they've previously that you had 1 point that you could gain for using outside evidence. Because they're only giving you 5 documents, they wanted to expand that. And so the second bit here is evidence beyond the documents. That's bringing in that outside information and using it like it was a document. And I'll have a video later in the week explaining a little bit more about how to do that as we go through the process of writing these DBQs. And so you're going to get 1 point for using 1 additional piece of evidence, 2 points for using 2 additional pieces of evidence. And so really the first, first 7 points of this whole rubric are just about your thesis, your contextualization, your thesis, and the argument that goes with it. And then, as usual, the analysis is that little whipped cream and cherry on top. And these are just like they were in the old rubric, except they've added an extra point. So it's basically the same thing though. As far as this is your analysis. This is where you use your HAP. You use HAP, and you explain how or why the HAP matters. Remember, HAP is historical situation, audience, purpose, or point of view. Now, you don't have to use all of them. You could just use one of them, but it's using that HAP knowledge that you have, either putting it into a historical, either put the document into a historical context and explain why that matters. Put the document into, look at who wrote the document, and then explain their point of view and why that matters. You could see who's being written to and why that matters. Or you could just put down the purpose. Why is this being written? And why does that matter? And so if you do that for one document, you get 1 point. If you do that for 2 documents, you get 2 points. And so we'll talk about where to put that in just a minute when we look at how to do an outline one more time. Complexity, this is that complex understanding. Can you argue the other side? So what they want to see is they want to see you pick a side, argue that side, but then be able to say, but, or however, blah, 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 blah on the other side. And so just by doing that, and I'll show you how to do that in the outline, you can get that last point. And so that's your 10-point rubric. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be writing a few DBQs between now and your exam on May 12. Let's get into the first DBQ assignment. Now this first page is just your typical cover page. It tells you got 15 or 45 minutes. That 45 minutes is for reading and writing. Let's see, it's suggested that you spend 5 to 10 minutes reading the documents and 35 to 40 minutes writing your response. You can start writing your response straight away, but as always, I suggest writing an outline, and I'll show you how to do that, or at least take a few notes, and I'll show you what I do when we get to the outline writing part. So this is just a summation of how you're going to get graded. This is a summation of the rubric we just looked at. So the question that we're going to look at here is going to be evaluate whether or not European authorities exercised religious tolerance during the 16th century. Now, we look at this question and I see the word, first off, evaluate. So I'm going to go over here to this other tab. And this is a list of task verbs used in the free response questions. So I'm going to zoom in here and get down to evaluate. And evaluate simply asks us to judge or determine the significance or importance of information or the quality or accuracy of a claim. So our job in here is to judge whether or not European authorities were religiously tolerant in the 16th century. Remember, the 16th century is going to be the 1500s. So our job is to tell whether or not they did that. And basically our job is to judge. So the documents, remember, you're going to get 5 of them. At least one of them is going to be a non-text source. And so this first document here, an etching of, and remember you want to read the source first, an etching of Anna Jans, an Anabaptist who was arrested and interrogated in the city of Rotterdam, where she was sentenced to death by drowning January 23, 1539. So here they are down here in this picture, leading Miss Jans off to the pond or the lake or whatever they're going to go drown her in. So that's fun. And so the next one, we've got Sebastian Castelio. I don't know how to say it. French Protestant theologian, Basel, Switzerland, 1554. I'm not going to read into that one. You can read. And remember, these documents are posted on Classroom in the first assignment for our first DBQ. Here we got William, Prince of Orange, and Archduke Matthias of Habsburg, leaders of the Protestant and Catholic parties in the Dutch revolt against the Spanish. Joint proclamation to the people of the Netherlands in Antwerp, 1578. We got document 4, a contract between the Catholic Church chapter and the municipal council in the town of Botzen, Saxony, 1583. And the star tells me that I should go down here and read that a church chapter is a corporation of clergy responsible for the services in a church district. And then last but not least, we've got document 5, a little snippet from Edict of Nantes, 1598, King Henry IV of France. So at this point, he's already the king, and then issues that Edict of Nantes. And so you can read that. You can read through that one. You probably already know about the Edict of Nantes. Gosh, I hope so. All right, so we got our 5 documents here, and that sort of introduces those. So I thought we could take a moment and look into one more time an outline of how to write one of these DBQs. And I'm going to switch screens here for just, give me just half a second to mirror this. All right, that should work. Cool. So to wrap up, I thought just kind of go through the DBQ process one more time. So step 1, you're going to read the documents. Read the docs. As you read the docs, make a T-chart. That's just very simple. Remember, the question here is to evaluate whether or not the authorities were religiously tolerant in the 16th century. So I'm just going to put down T for tolerant, IT for intolerant, make me a nice little chart. I'm going to think back to Anna Yachts and how they were going to lead her off to drown her in whatever it was they were going to drown her in. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that over here in the intolerant box. Let's go drown an Anabaptist is not a thing of religious toleration. And I'm going to do this for all the documents. I don't know which one goes where, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to start to look for trends because remember, I need evidence. I need reasons as well. And so I'm going to look for trends. Are there multiple documents from the same geographic area? Are there multiple documents? How do the documents stack up in the timeline? Do they start early and go late? Do they start late and go early? Are they all from the same year? How does this work? So I'm going to say timeline. And to be honest, you don't have to know a whole lot about the larger timeline to be able to answer this. You can just look at the dates of the docs and get an idea of, this one happened before this one. And then I'm going to look at events. Are there similarities or differences in why the document was issued? Are they public documents? Are they issued in response to something? And typically you're going to be able to find that in the docs. And you kind of need to know a little bit about the larger timeline, but not a whole lot. All right, so let's get down to the essay. As far as the essay goes, you're going to start large, and I'm hoping that you've seen this in your English classes. So you're going to start with your contextualization. Contextualization. This is why you're going to need those sprite charts. And you're going to want to have those out in front of you. And I know it sounds like cheating, but this is an open notes exam. And so you should have those sprite charts out in front of you, being able to look at those as you write this. And so this contextualization piece should be a gimme point. It's going to be right there in front of you, okay? And then toward the end of that, this is going to be your intro paragraph. You're going to want to write your thesis. And remember, we continue to focus on using the thesis trident of power. And so remember that this is going to be your stem. In this case, it's going to be the religious authorities of the 16th century were tolerant, or the religious authorities of the 16th century were not tolerant. And then you're going to use these 3 pieces here to spell out why. These are going to be your reasons. They're also going to be body paragraph 1 topic sentence, body paragraph 2 topic sentence, and body paragraph 3 topic sentence. Now don't write out a whole sentence for your reason, okay? Shortened, but basically you're going to use the same information that you put here in your thesis to write your topic sentences. So then after you get down here, I'm just going to write me a little box here. This is going to be body paragraph 1. It's going to start with a topic sentence. And then I'm going to run on down to the first bit of evidence. So remember that we have a particular pattern that we follow. We're going to start with a piece of evidence. So we're going to say evidence 1. Now that evidence can either be a document or it can be outside info. It's up to you. If it was me, I would start strong with a document. I would want the person reading this to know that I know what the documents say, and I want them to know that right away that I know the docs. And then I'll use outside evidence later because the document is there in front of us both. That typically in historical circles is seen as stronger evidence than something that's not in front of both of us. So we're going to then describe the document. And then we're going to explain how it proves we are right. Need to make a bigger box. So explain how it proves that I'm right, and then I'm going to run into evidence 2. That's going to either be a document or a bit of outside evidence. I'm going to describe, and I'm going to explain how it proves I'm right. And then do it again. Uh-oh, my camera died. Okay. We'll see how that turns out in the edit. That would be devastating. And then evidence 3. I'm going to do document or outside and describe. It's 5 o'clock. Describe, explain, and then that'll be it. So that's my first body paragraph. Now, this third piece of evidence, if you don't have 3 pieces of evidence, that's okay. 2 is enough. But if you have time, if you have room, 3 is always better. More evidence is always better than not as much evidence. Now let's say document 2, I chose a document here. This is, here, if I chose a document, then, and this is one that I want to analyze, then right here, after I explain how it proves I'm right, that's where I'm going to put in my HAP and explain how or why the HAP matters. Explain how or why the HAP matters. Because, I mean, that's really important, right? And it's also going to get us a point. That's going to get us 1 point. Just doing it once is going to get us 1 point. So then I'm going to do the same thing for body paragraph 2. I'm going to do a topic sentence. I'm going to do evidence 1. It's either going to be a document or a bit of outside evidence. I'm going to describe the doc. I'm going to explain how it proves I'm right. And then I'm going to move on to evidence number 2. It's either going to be a doc or a bit of outside evidence. I'm going to describe it. and I'm going to explain how it proves that I'm right. So then, at this point, I've got a choice. I've used 5 pieces of evidence. I've got my documents done. This third paragraph, body paragraph 3, this is where I would put my complex understanding. This whole essay, I have been arguing one way in particular, and now it's time to argue the other side, because I want all 10 points, friend. I want all 10 points. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use a topic sentence. And you might ask yourself, when did I make that decision to go ahead with the complex understanding? I made that decision all the way up here, right? I made that decision when I wrote my thesis statement, because my body paragraph 3 topic sentence is in my thesis statement. So this is where it says, however, blah, 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 blah. However, sometimes they were tolerant. However, sometimes they were not tolerant. And then this is why. And I'm going to do the same thing, okay? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do evidence 1. It's going to be a doc or a piece of outside evidence. And I'm going to describe or explain, or not or, describe and explain. And then I'm going to do that again, right? I'm just going to write it here to the side, even though it should be below. Here, I'll just put it on the next page. This is going to be evidence 2. It's going to either be a doc or a bit of outside evidence. I'm going to describe, and I know it feels repetitive to just do the same pattern over and over and over, but this is how you do it in history. This is, you have evidence, you have documents, you describe them, you prove that you know what you're talking about, and then you explain how they prove that you're right. That's history. At least that's how we argue in history. So I've got now my intro paragraph. I've got my topic sentence for my first body paragraph. I've got my second body paragraph. I got my third body paragraph for my complex understanding point. And notice that I only used 2 pieces of evidence here and 2 pieces of evidence here. That's just, I'm just trying to save space, to be quite honest. I could easily use 3 documents here or 3 pieces of evidence here, but you want to try to break it up into multiple paragraphs. You don't want to lump all of your arguments into one. And then time to wrap it up. Time to throw in that conclusion. And if you want to write a conclusion, no, not if you want to write a conclusion. If you've got the time, definitely try to write a conclusion. And in your conclusion, this is where you want to try to improve your thesis. Sometimes your first round at a thesis is not awesome. And so if you simply restate it word for word and you just copy word for word or cut and paste word for word, you're not trying to improve your thesis. And so try to reword your thesis as much as you can, because if you don't do it clearly up here at the top, you can still get the point for the thesis when this reader reads it at the bottom. And that happens all the time. And that's totally legit. So don't worry about that. Oh, and I forgot, maybe here you also want to try and do another tab. Explain why or how the HAP matters. Okay. All right. So that is your larger outline for your DBQ. And I hope that this answers questions. If it brings any up, you let me know, and I will try to answer them as much as I can. But this is how we're going to spend a whole lot of time over the next 3 weeks as we get ready for this exam. If you do have questions, it is better to ask than to not ask. And yeah, we'll be more. I'll be more back in your feed to talk a little bit more about specifics as far as the rubric goes, or sorry, as far as the outline goes, and the different parts here. I think I've got a video coming out later talking about how to use documents versus how to use outside evidence. It's really not that different, but we'll get more into that. That's my brother-in-law. And yeah, we'll get more into this as we go. All right, y'all. Stay safe, wash your hands, take care of yourself, and I will see you all soon. See ya.